What's everyone? It's Matt Morozic, and welcome to the next working part on Eric Sosa Spicy. I always say spicy, Spidey. Eric Sosa Spidey. So the first part I'm going to paint this light because I need to get this clear coated and stuff so it can cure 24 hours before I can move on and do the next parts. So like I said in the last video, I've already kind of did a white base coated primer, and I'm going to use these two colors. I've got this kind of, these are from a company that's no longer around, Playmo Color. I can't believe I still have some of their paints. I bought these, God, over 10 years ago. It's been 10 years since I bought these, and it's a real shame that they went out of business because their paints were really good, and the guy just didn't do a good job. But these are pretty thin lacquer paints. The only thing I don't like about them is that they separate, but these have been sitting for years. So it's one of my little badger stir and stirred them up. So I got green haze and lime green. So I think I'm going to do the, let's do the green haze first and see what that looks like. So you don't have to thin these. I'm just going to use my, I spray these at my workbench. So, hold on, I just got a text from someone. I thought I was having a job interview today, but something happened. So anyway, I've been sending emails to a recruiter and they keep going to her junk mail. So I'm trying to figure that out. Figure that whole mess out. Anyway, my emails keep going to this recruiter's junk mail. So I thought I had an interview scheduled today, and I guess not because I waited around for it and didn't get a call. So it's very frustrating and stressful. But anyway, so we're going to paint, maybe sniffing some paint fumes will help that. Okay, so the thing with these Playmo colors is you have to put them on real light. It's not like a Mr. Color paint where you can put them on real heavy. So I'm just going to build this up real slow. Again, this is just straight out of the airbrush. I just cleaned these airbrushes, so they should spray nicely. A little piece of dirt in there. The hardest part about model building, in my opinion, is keeping your surface clean. Whatever it is you're painting, keeping it clean. And I don't have to put this on solid. I don't have to make it, I may just do 2 coats of this. 2 light coats. All right, so there's one. Let's even it out here a little bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of mist on another coat. Now when I go to the lime green, even though you don't have to thin it, I am going to thin it just a little bit. I'm going to build that up pretty slow. And reduce my exposure. It's really bright on this part. It's not that bright in person. It's just showing up that way in camera. Get some more even light on it. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Alrighty. So that was looking pretty good. It's looking really bright on the back of my camera here. I'm going to bring down my exposure even more. So bring it way down. Somewhere in there. I think my exposure is too bright on my camera. All right. So I think I'm going to do a little more. I'm going to thin this a little bit because it's coming out a little thicker than I'm used to. So I'm going to add a little Mr. Color thinner to it. About 1 to 1. Mix up the airbrush here. There we go. It's got a little too much texture to the paint. No big deal because we're going to take care of that with the clear coat we put on. We use the 2K automotive clear coat and it'll smooth everything out. All right. That's looking pretty good. That to the side for a second. And we're going to go on this lime green. And I'm going to thin that a little bit. Again, about 1 to 1 with this paint. I seriously doubt anyone out there still has some of this paint. I'd be surprised. Maybe some of my Gundam buddies still have some. I was one of the few lucky guys that actually paid for my paint and got my paint. That was back when I was just getting into Facebook and YouTube. And when I wasn't getting my stuff, I started blasting everywhere that I wasn't getting it. Okay, so we got this thinned. About 1 to 1. We're going to go in here. We're just going to kind of real lightly try to keep it in the center for this particular light. Probably could have gone with some white first. Let me come back in and do some white. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So that's just going to take too long to build up, and I want it brighter than that. So I'm going to go get some Mr. Color White. Be right back. All right, so we're going to add a little white on here first. I'm just going to put it right in my airbrush. I'm not going to worry about cleaning it out. I'm going to thin that down a little bit. I usually don't like mixing in my cup because I get a lot of paint that kind of backwashes into the brush. All right, so now I put some white in my airbrush. And I backed off pretty far because I want this to be kind of a soft transition. I'm going to come in a little tighter now. Concentrate the brightness in the center of that little strip I made. So now I can go in after this and layer on that lime green. And then I'll probably go back in one more time with the other green. Just add some shading, additional shadows and stuff. That's looking pretty good. And then I'll let this dry for about an hour before I go and put the clear coat on, because I like to let the lacquers gas off. Okay. And it's not perfectly like the same, even all the way around. And that, you know, for this type of light, it would have a little indiscrepancies in its glow because it's going through glass and stuff. So it doesn't be perfect. If it's perfect, it looks fake. Okay. That looks pretty good. So let's empty out this white. I don't have any more paper cups. I don't want to put this back in the regular color container. Got some green in it. So, 1 second. I'll throw it in here. Empty out the brush. This time I do want to get most of the white out. I'm going to go back with the lime green. And then I'm going to leave a little bit of that white in there. Let's brighten it up a little bit. And then we're going to thin that down again. And I'm just going to kind of spray over the whole thing, and then we're going to go back in and add that darker green again, kind of in the shadow area. Then back way off. And as I spray this on there, it just blends in. Blend it all together. I put a little more lime green on there, just without the white mixed in. Okay, now I just got straight lime green. I just got a piece of dirt coming out of my airbrush, so I'm going to hit this real quick with a hairdryer so I can't pick it out. Come on. Got a little speck of dirt that came out of my airbrush. I'm trying to get it out so I don't have to redo all these steps. It's one trick when you're doing a lot of transparencies and stuff. You get a little speck of dirt in it, you're going to see that dirt all the way down through the layers. Let's see that takes care of it. Yeah, it's looking pretty good now. There, we're getting somewhere. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with my first color. And we're going to go back and do the shadows a little bit more. Just kind of back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to keep going back and forth with these two colors until I get the look I want. I'm pretty close. I'm now just hitting up on these ridges. And it looks pretty good. Like I said, I'm going to let this dry really, really well. And then I'm going to clear cut it with the 2K clear. So I'll put this to the side. And we're going to let it dry for a while. Okay. So I'm going to clean my airbrush. And I'm going to come back and we'll start doing the blue on Spidey. So clean airbrush, we'll be back. Okay, so for the blue, I'm going to stick with my Playmo colors because I've got a bunch of them. I need to use them up. I'm going to put Midnight Blue on top of this black. Now, I've got this zoomed out quite a bit so you can hopefully see what I'm doing. I'm going to go get, be right back. I need to get a clean rubber glove. Okay. Well, now I need a Band-Aid to cut myself. That's Canadian glove. Man, today has not been a good day for me. Alright. Let's cut myself on the glove box. Let's get these out in the paint room. So let me put a Band-Aid on real quick. So I don't bleed on anything. Alright, that's taken care of. Got some, restock my glove supply. Alright. Okie dokie. So here we are. Alrighty, so hopefully this will show up. So I'm going with, again, Midnight Blue Playmo colors. And we're going to just hit the tops of all this. I do need to clear my airbrush real quick. Let me do that. Run some paint thinner through this. I don't want green Spidey, I want dark blue Spidey. So I'm just cleaning out my paintbrush real quick, my airbrush, which I just gave a good bath a second ago. There. Okay. And I did add a little thinner to this. Not sure exactly the right amount, how much I put in there, but I in a little bit so it'll come out nice and smooth. So this looks a little bright. This paint looks a little bright the way it is. You can see there on my towel, but it's going on top of this black, so it'll be a pretty dark shade. That's what we want. So again, we're just going to hit all the high spots. We want a really kind of dark navy blue, and that's what we'll get with this. We're gonna hit the high spots. You may not even be able to see it. And then backed off quite a ways, so like try to keep it nice and subtle, soft transitions. If I get real tight, then you get these really tight lines. And it looks weird. Get some more light on it so maybe you can see what's happening here. But always I'm constantly changing the direction of the piece and the light so you can see all the shapes. There's a lot of one thing that Eric Sosa is really good at is he sculpts a lot of subtle details from his pieces. So you got to constantly be changing the piece around in the light to see those details. Paint dries fairly quick. It's like kind of painting with Mr. Color. You can so where there's a small muscle like this, I'll get in tighter. I see a little detail, I'll get in tighter. Just like that. I'm pretty close. When I see a big muscle like this on the thigh, I'll back off. Like that. And with this paint, I may go over these twice. And this will dry down. Take a little piece of dirt there. And I hate this, even after I clean my airbrush, right after I clean, I still get dirt coming out of it. Never fails. It's like stuff loosens up. Again, there's another tight muscle there. Back off, there's a big muscle. It's a pretty slow process. This takes a while. Keep getting text messages on my phone. I want to make sure it's not from the recruiter trying to get a hold of me. I told him to contact my cell phone rather than through email, since he tried to send this recruiter emails and they go through her trash folder and I didn't ever get a response. So once I get this all kind of established like this, I'll mist over this real lightly with this blue to kind of blend it all in. So again, we don't want muscles drawn on, we want them to look natural. So I think I'll just do this leg on camera, because you get the idea. I've showed this before in a bunch of my other videos. But this paint, it's just, you just gotta build it up slowly, because it's pretty thin out of the bottle, but once you get thinner, then it's really thin, and you can run it or pull it pretty easily. So I'm very little paint coming out of my airbrush right now. Slowly building it up. So this is where your color theory and your knowledge of color comes into play, because you got this really bright blue and you're like, man, it's way too bright. but knowing how it's going to react to black to get the color is really kind of important when you're doing all these layering techniques. You have to know how the colors are going to interact with each other. You know, if you, someone had made a comment on the Deadpool I just posted on Facebook or on YouTube on the video, they're like, you know, you can mix green in that. You could add green into the shadows. And yeah, you can, because you'll get brown. That's another way to shade red. I don't do that personally because I think it gets a little muddy. I have tried it in the past, so I'd rather just shade it with a darker shade of red. I have base coated it in brown before and highlighted it in white, but you gotta be careful when mixing complementary colors because it can turn to mud. And there's a difference between the way brown looks and the way mud looks. It's not a clean look, if that makes sense. So again, I'm gonna go back over to these areas I did previously, now the paint's dried a little bit, and build it up again. There's a lot of muscles on this piece, a lot of details. I'm getting real tight here. It's a real tight muscle, or probably a ligament underneath the muscle. I don't know the names of muscles and stuff. Surely these guys who use character arts know the names of all the muscles and everything. Studied anatomy. So today I'll get the blue sprayed. I'll let the paint dry for the blue dry for a good hour. You can sometimes, and it's mostly when I do with lacquers, if I try to go seal it right away, I have had the Krylon react. The lacquers, they haven't had time enough to flash off. And I do get sometimes it'll wrinkle. So I gotta be careful. So there's two muscles right here on top of a big muscle, and they'll get blended in later. You can see here I'm just kind of fanning up to where that muscle gets bigger, starting closer to this point here, just fanning it up. Getting real tight right here. The top of the knee will be the brightest spot, so I'm going to build that up pretty bright. Yeah, you can see what's going on there in the camera. So at this point, these are kind of looking drawn on. They're real sharp, real defined shapes. So we're going to fix that when we go to blend this all in. Yeah, I'm spraying a lacquer outside my spray booth, but I've got very little paint coming out, so I'm barely even smelling it. So typically when I go to mist this on, I'll go in the spray booth because I'll create a lot of overspray. Get lots of blue. I can't do that without a spray booth. As I turn this in the light, I see more and more details. So this kit is one of those kits where it had been worked on before, it had some repairs done, and I'm usually not a fan of working on kits that have been worked on before, simply because I don't know what the previous painter or builder has done. To my delight surprise, when I did the Naren Azog, whoever had worked on that kit before did a really good job on the prep. I was really worried once I saw that it had been worked on. This one, whoever had it before, like I said, it's been painted and stripped, and then whoever went in and tried to do some of the repairs didn't do a good job. So it's just more work to go in and deal with that if you're not the original person to work on the piece. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's what it is. But I typically don't do repairs. I said that before. I got sucked into trying to help someone with some repairs on a big project, and I'm not sure if I mentioned before. I thought I was doing 4 of them. 10 showed up, and then the repairs were way more than what I was told. And I had to wipe my hands and get out of that project. Like, nope, I'm done. Come pick them up. I took up my garage for 2 weeks. Took up my living room for an entire week. I broke my back carrying 10 85-pound boxes up to my studio. It was just a nightmare. So they went back to China because I was like, nope, I'm not dealing with this. Actually need to deal with it. Anyway, that's off subject. So there you go. You get the idea. So I got that leg pretty much done. And you can kind of see there. So I'm going to finish doing that on this leg and the rest of the torso, and then we'll come back and blend it in. Okay, so now we're in my extremely dirty and noisy spray booth, but the light's terrible in here. Let me see if I can burn this up a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mist over this with that blue, and we're going to blend this in a little bit. We're doing my airbrush. Set for a different airbrush. There we go. So we're just going to come in here and just over this a little bit, just to kind of soften everything up. I'll work on the bottom first, then I'll work on the top, and we'll get them to match. But this way we just don't have black for the shadows, we got a really dark blue for the shadows. They should match pretty close to the artwork that was given to me as a reference. Really dark navy blue with some highlights. And stain it on. So it kind of looks all even. Pretty good. Looks like that. So now if you can see, I don't know if you can see it in the camera there, the bottom has been kind of blended and the top hasn't. So it just ties it all together. So I'm going to finish doing this, and then we'll seal it, and then we'll put the 2K clear onto that light. Okay, so while the blue dries, I sent a couple pictures up to my client, make sure it's okay with him. It's looking really good. I sealed it. It's off to the side here drying. I'm going to work on some of these other parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this bottom part, this plinth. And this is kind of got a stone feel going on too. The last one I did, I just kind of painted a solid color and did some shading, but I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to do some sponging on it to kind of give it some texture. So we're going to get... break out some of our Garage Kits.us paints here. And we're going to use a variety of stuff. So like, let's get out a palette and a sponge. We got some sponges. So it gives it some texture. More interesting than just a solid color. Try to put on gloves so my hands don't get crazy dirty. So I'm going to start off with some of this light rust. And I'm just going to do what I normally do. I'm just going to kind of play until I get something I like. And once again, love Jesse's paints. I hate Jesse's bottles. They just clog up. Something fierce. Alright. There we go. See? Alright, so we got a sponge here. I like the natural sponges are better because they tend to give you more random shapes. I may have to go seal this. This has got, it has like a little bit of a sheen to it. Let's see, I'll just kind of play with it. I'm gonna go dark to light and work my way up. Into the rest of this in kind of a metallic color. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, this part of this building. I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like anything. This almost looks like it should be part of a spotlight, but I don't know. It looks like it should be metal. We're gonna go with that. I got too much paint on there. It's all right. Let's work with it. The one thing about using a natural sponge, or actually any sponge, is that a lot of times it'll create bubbles in the paint. I try to go through and try to pop those a little bit. You can see it goes on pretty light, but then as it dries, it gets nice and darkens down, and you can still see the black there a little bit. I hope this kind of look like stone of some sort. liking the way that looks. I have a look in my head. And we're just going to kind of work our way up to it. That's looking pretty good. I really like the way this looks right here. It kind of looks like, it almost looks like marble, but I don't want marble. I just want it to be marble. I don't think it'd be marble. There's still a lot of paint on this sponge. I just keep using it. Every time I put it down, some more of it comes out, and it gives this kind of nice texture I got going on here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's put light rust away. Let's come in with this might be a little too light, at least for now. Let's try. I'm gonna put some mahogany on here. It's pretty red. Then we're gonna go with this over this with some color called Dust. I just use the same sponge. Don't even worry about cleaning it off. Okay, so that looks good. I don't want a lot of this on here, I don't think. I take a lot of the paint off on the side over here. And you can turn the sponge to blend it in. So the first one I did a lot of masking on these pieces of the thing, and I'm like, now that I'm not going to do that, it's not going to be a lot of hand painting. That was when I was first getting into figures, and I wasn't doing a whole lot of hand painting. When I was doing Gundams, I masked everything. Like, man, it just takes forever. But stuff like this, where you want kind of natural, worn look. All right, that's looking good. Now we're going to go with some of this color called Dust. Mahogany, even a nice little another tone to this. And you can see here that it's kind of just because of the way that it's shaped in this sponging technique. It's already creating some shading already. Just because the sponge doesn't get down, it won't get down into those lower areas. So you get some nice shading with it already. So Dust. This is a pretty bright color. Gonna mix it in with the mahogany a little bit. And my battery's gonna die here in a minute, so I might probably start recording here. So I'm going over everything with this color called Dust. And after this, I may go back in again with the light rust a little bit just to kind of help blend it all in. I just spotted the sponge. I really like this. I like this part of the sponge. It's a really nice look. This kind of flat spot. All right. I'm trying to get some down in this crevice just so it doesn't look like it's an obvious demarcation. One more of this. I think what I'll do is I may airbrush. I'll take this and I'll airbrush another color on top of this. This will become like the under texture tone. I'm gonna go back on a little bit more of that light rust. I get the paint to come out of the bottle. Let's see if my battery will last here. Blinking at me, telling me it's time to change the battery. I'm just gonna go back on some of this light rust. Okay. Looks like I'm pretty good. Some nice tonal variations and textures going on here. I'm going to go turn on my airbrush. And what I got in here. I'm going to mist on a little natural bone. It's a little light. I don't want to cover up what I've done. And again, give us kind of a sandstone look. I'll kind of blend this all together. Blend it a little bit. Okay. That's looking pretty good. And then we're going to add some transparent, do some shading. Let's see what we got. So I got some transparent cocoa brown here. Going all the little crevices and details. I'm going to turn off. I'm not turn and move some of these lights to the side because there's some details here and they're really subtle. I can't see them with all the lights on. They're kind of right in here. Like the spoke of the wheel coming out in the middle. I need a really oblique light source so I can see them. I'm going to mist this cocoa brown over the whole thing just to kind of bring it all down a little bit. I can mix this on. Backing way off because these are super thin. It'll pull really easily. I think maybe this bottom ring a little bit darker. I'll keep going over everything until I get the tone I want. Pretty close. This is heavy. All right, we're getting there. And just slowly building it up. I'm really hitting the shadows hard. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll just dry a little bit and I'm going to seal it. I'll really get a sense of what it looks like. I have a feeling it's going to be right where I want it. Hard to see right now because it's shiny. It's actually showing up really good in camera. Showing up better in camera than it is in person. That looks really good. These spokes are kind of really well defined. And just a little bit more on top, and then we're gonna let it dry and then seal it. I think that part will look good. Blend there a little bit more. Okay, digging it. I keep saying that I keep putting more on here, but all right. So we're going to seal this, and then we'll come back and take a look at it and do the other part. All right, so seal that, let it dry for a few minutes, and this is what it looks like. It looks really, really good. So now we're going to do some metallic on here. So let's do that. And I think for this part, I'm going to do a relatively dark one. So I'm going to do steel. Do some steel on this guy. Actually, wish I had a slightly darker. Let's see. We'll just do steel. That's way too much paint. What I need. Brush. Just going to hand paint this. This is the Vallejo metal colors. Just hand paint really, really nicely. They are pretty thin, so you got to be careful that you don't put too much on, otherwise it'll run and get into areas you don't want it to get into. I'm just using this, I'm not sure what size this is, the number 1 brush, just to cut in along the edge here. It does clean up pretty easily with water if you do happen to, if you get it before it dries. After it dries, then you really need to use alcohol, which will then strip the paint below it. So a little too much on my brush there. Right. That. So these paints work really, really well if you kind of actually buff them on. So you put some on, and as it dries, you basically really work it on the surface, and it gives you this really cool natural metal look. It's kind of freaky how cool they look. It's like everything you normally don't do with hand painting, you do with these paints, and it makes it look really cool. Like normally you don't want to put in and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but these you kind of want to, you do, and it gives you a really cool natural metal look. And as you work it, you just get some really cool kind of tonal variations, very subtle tonal variations that you kind of work it back and forth. It's not brush strokes. It's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe unless you see it in person. These paints last a long time. I bought a full set several years ago, probably 3 years ago, and I think I've only replaced 1 color so far. That's probably pale burnt metal. It's like one of my favorite colors in this line. There's a bunch of colors that they're like aluminum colors, and they're so close in tone you can't tell the difference. So you buy the set of like, I think it's 9 or 10 paints, and like 5 of them look exactly the same. I mean, they're probably different if you put them, like if you're doing an airplane, you put them right next to each other, but I have a hard time telling the difference. So right here, this part kind of goes in and blends into the sculpt right here, so. Have to be careful and continue that line around like that. Heard back from the client, he loves the blue, so that's good. So we'll let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow's Saturday. My son's got a couple soccer games. The red will take a long time. A lot of masking. The masking takes forever. I'm going to paint this little, whatever this piece is, a different color than this, just so I get some variation. And I'll go with this. Instead of using an airbrush, I'll use some pastels to add some shading to this after I seal it. I could probably use an airbrush. What I may do is use like a clear navy, like a midnight blue. That'd be kind of cool. Give this middle kind of a little bluish tint to it. It'll look nice against this kind of warm stone we got going on. Again, most of the time when I paint, I don't have a plan in my head. I just start painting. I would say 90% of the time, it's like, oh, I think we're gonna just go this direction, and that's what I do. It's funny because I painted a few. I've been painting some licensed pieces for a company called Gaming Heads. It's very different painting a licensed piece over painting for a private client. Depending on the client, a lot of the guys I paint for, they have, they give me instructions on the colors to go, but they hire me because they like the way I paint. So here are the colors I want. Do your thing on it, kind of, which I like. The license pieces, it's paint by number. They give you all the Pantone colors, and they're like, match these colors exactly. So it's interesting because it's kind of cool, but then it's because it's challenging to sit there and you have to really know your color theory. You really know how to mix colors and stuff to get those Pantones to match. Because you have to take pictures of the Pantone chip next to the paint to show that you matched it. So one thing about this paint is that it does create bubbles when you paint. So that's kind of where the buffing comes into play. Try to get rid of those. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Where's the one color I had with this Vallejo metal coat was like a black metallic. Too much paint on my brush. See, I put too much on it, started to run. I didn't want it to run down on that stone. But see, you can see here where I kind of buffed it. It's got a cool look to it. You don't see brush strokes. You just see, steel isn't a perfect. When you look at metal, it's not all perfect one color. It's got little variations in it because it's got imperfections in it. So if you work with this paint, kind of get that. I get another brush here, bigger brush. Oh, that did. Okay. Come here with the Q-tip and try to get rid of some of these bubbles. I'm just going to dab it a little bit to pop them. Kind of gives you a cool look anyway. I have to leave here and take my son to practice here in a little bit anyway, but that's where we are right now. So, yeah. All right, well, you go get him? Oh, I thought it was at 5:30. Okay. Well, I gotta go. My son's got practice. All right, so I'm back. No practice. So I think what I'm gonna do for this part is I'm gonna take some of this copper. This is my least favorite color in this whole set because it's like, I don't know, it's chunky. I add it to the steel and just come up with another metallic, a warmer metallic. And then mix them together and kind of come up with this. That didn't work. Kind of come up with a, there we go. I want it different, but I don't necessarily want it to be copper. Pour some out. Does not want to come out of the bottle. There we go. I got this other color now going on here. Again, we're going to cut it in. Not sure what this is supposed to be. We're going to paint it however we want. Okay. Oops. I've got a little bit right here. I can go touch up the other color if I get some on there, no problem. And then we're going to do some shading. They'll do a little bit of dry brushing on this. So these metals, when I'm doing a big area like these, with these paints, I just kind of put it on and then I just really just kind of work it. Actually, the better brush for this would be a big flat brush. So I'm going to switch brushes, I think. Let's do this out real quick. Yeah, nice big soft brush. And the more you work it, the better it looks. It's really kind of cool. Especially as it starts to dry. See, I'm kind of taking the excess off my brush. I got some on. I don't know how that happened. A little careless, and I got some on. Part I painted previously. Like I said, I can touch it up. Seriously. Yeah, I'm a little crazy here. Oh, what do you want? My dog wants it in my lap. So now we're going to go through and we're going to buff it. Now it's starting to dry. It takes a little while. You got to work it for a little bit, and then it really starts to kind of look cool. Especially on a big flat surface like this where you don't want to see brush strokes. See it dry a little bit. I had some brush strokes. I'm just going to go there and buff them out. Can't get these cool different tonal variations going on in the surface. Maybe, see, I kind of took a little too much off right there. Maybe go add just a touch more, very little bit. You can add a little bit more on, let it dry a little bit, then buff it again. That's been pretty good. Again, I have no clue what this is supposed to be on this building, but all right, I'm gonna leave that alone. That looks pretty good. Turn that off. I'm gonna touch it in my steel that I got. We're getting a little overzealous with that color. Take this big brush again and kind of work it. I hear you, Coco, but you can't come in my lap right now. I'm sorry. Little Cheweenie. Okay. Oh, I know. I hear you. Okay, that's looking really good. So we're going to let this dry, and then we'll seal it, and then I'll do some shading. And then maybe a little dry brushing on these parts, and then this lower part will be done. Looking cool. For the tower part, for this, I think I'm going to do that like a brass. And it'll look really nice against all that. So we'll come back when we do, after I seal this. And I think I'm going to go with an airbrush. I thought maybe pastels, maybe airbrush. I don't know. I haven't decided. I'll come back over to sealed. Okay, so continuing on, I've been kind of doing some painting here and there without recording it. I'm starting to work, just doing some stuff on the, I guess, the light tower or whatever you want to call the center part of the structure. So everything got a light sanding, and then I primed it with some black primer, and then this has been just rattle canned with like those kind of copper tones. It can get toned down, so I don't want it to look like copper, like a distillery. But I just wanted to kind of use this as a base and get toned down with some shading and stuff, maybe some pastels. And the first one I did on these, I masked all these tubes off to paint these parts, but I think I'm going to try to hand paint them. The hardest part is really the Oscorp sign because it's like a bright neon green. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try something different on this one. It'll make my life a little bit easier. Because on the first one I did, as I painted the sign and everything, I'm doing a little light sanding because this paint went a little rough in some areas, so I got some dry spray. So what I think I'm going to do, is kind of a, well, I wonder if I could do a reverse wash, but I'd have to use lacquer paint. That might work. If I have bright green. So a reverse wash, if you don't know what that is basically you paint a raised section with lacquer paint. You let it cure. I have to wait till tomorrow to finish it though. You let that cure, or you gloss coat, let it cure. Then you spray like the background, like this part, whatever color you want it to go. And then using lighter fluid and a cloth, you can wipe it off. Actually, I can do the same thing with acrylic, I think. I'm just thinking out loud here. I think I want to paint the letters first and then go in and maybe hand paint around this background. So let's try that. Again, this is just me thinking out loud. I'll be right back to get the paints. Okay. So I'm going to go use the kind of same greens I did for the other part. I want to paint the letters first. I want to let those dry for a little while. And then I think we're going to go in and try to hand paint all these other parts. So first thing I want to do is I'm just going to use some, I need blue tape. I don't need blue tape. I do have some of this though. I'm just going to do a real kind of dirty masking because I don't want to get overspray on the rest of this piece. It doesn't have to be pretty. All I care about is making sure I don't get overspray on the rest of the piece. And I need to go to the hobby store and get some more tomato tape. I'm out. And I'm going to do this. So I'll do this and I'll show you what I've done on the other parts. I just got done top coating those. They're drying. Okay, so I'm just going to try and do this real quick. A little dirty mask. That'll keep our overspray off everything else. Okay, just like that. Now, I actually need to go get some primer. Sorry. Actually, what I can do, I'll just use, I can use one of these colors real quick. So I'm just gonna go in dirty right now. Bolts kind of clean out my airbrush. For now, I'm just gonna throw some gray on here. This is just to cover up kind of the copper, like that. last time I hand painted the letters on, and that took forever because I was trying to build up this bright green on top of a dark background. It just took forever. We're gonna do it this way this time. Okay, that, and now we're gonna throw some white on there. I'm just going to hit the tops of the letters. It's going to be a multi-stage process. Okay, that. I'm going to hit this with a hair dryer and do another little coat. Wish I had seems like Jessica makes this semi-transparent pure white. I wish you had a pure white, just solid color. Let's do a little bit more of that. Okay, again. Okay. Now I need to clean up this airbrush pretty good. Alcohol. I'm going to throw in some this Plamo color. I think it's hazel green, or I don't know what it's called. So I clean my airbrush out and give that a second to dry. I'm going to put on some of the green haze, real light. I'll let this dry for a good portion of the day. Okay, so here's that green haze. And I'm going to get kind of all around the letters. Don't put this on too wet, it'll be fine. And then I'm actually going to go back over this with a little bit of white, just hitting the tops of the letters. And hopefully that'll give us some shading on the letter so it's brighter on the raised parts, and it kind of fades into this color a little bit. That's the idea. Actually, what I can do is I know what I'm going to do. I just had a brain fart. Every once in a while my brain works. Not too often. Okay. And do a little bit more of that. I'm going up real light. I'm not putting it on super wet. good. We got pretty good coverage. I can tell all sides. And a little. I don't need to wash this brush out. I forgot to wash this brush out. Give me 1 second. I just used it a second ago. It's one of my favorite brushes. I'm really bad about washing brushes out, so I get the cheap ones. If I get working, I just work really fast, and then I'll use a brush and I'll put it down and forget to wash it out. Okay, now I'm going to go over this. With the go back over with some white real quick, real lightly. Okay, so this white is going to hit the tops real. Basically just like that. And that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to go back over with the with lime green. You can just hit the tops. And then as a final step, after I seal this and dry this, I'm going to dry brush some white right on the tops. And hopefully it'll give us some shading on the letters. But now the sides are kind of dark and the top will be bright. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to let that needs to dry for a bit, and then I can seal it. And then I'll dry brush some white just right on top, I think, or some really bright green, maybe a little white, this green with a little white mixed in. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's set that to the side and I'll show you what I've done on the other pieces. Here for a second. Put the tape off. Okay, so this part I went in and I did some shading on here. As you can see it. A little shading in here and weathering. Same thing on this piece. I just kind of modeled some dark tones on to give it some shape, and that looks really good. I don't want to put this together because I just sealed these. This part, I kind of went with this kind of hammered steel look. So I base coated it in a metallic black, and I sponged on different metallic colors. And then I went and shaded it with transparent black, and just kind of misted some gold tone over it, and then some black on top of that. We got this look, and it's going to look really nice with this. So it'll kind of tie in really well with that. That's got to dry. And then this part right here is basically just steel, and I shaded it to give it some shape. You won't see a whole lot of this inside. And then this light tower, I did steel again and did some shading. And this top part, I did kind of like a weather brass kind of look to it. Actually, I could probably take the tape off of this because this has been sealed and see what it looks like. That's pretty good. Alrighty, so, oh man, I do see, unfortunately, my tape left some tape marks in the clear coat. So once this dries, I'm going to try to wet sand that out a little bit, and I'll hand polish it. Let's probably just let the clear coat dry for 24 hours. So I'm going to have to try to sand that out and polish it because that is not acceptable. This happened on the first one I did too. It's really weird. So we'll see if we can sand it out. Otherwise, I'll have to repaint the light part. Not sure if it's showing up. There's my tape textures in there, so that's always annoying when that happens. Alrighty, so I thought that part was done, but I guess not. Maybe the tape was only too long. Maybe it was, yeah, shit. I'm going to have to redo that because I can see. Alrighty, that really sucks. I have to repaint this part and re-clear coat it. So I guess I'll let this dry. I'll mask off the metallic and then try it again, and hopefully it turns out without any errors. But that's what it'll look like when it's done. So this part is done. This part is done. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and seal this. It's dried just for a minute, and that's all I really need to do is dry just for a minute. I got a piece of dirt in there I want to get out before I do that. All right, so we're going to go seal this, and then we're going to try to dry brush some maybe white on top and see what that looks like. Okay, seal this. It's dry just for a few minutes, and I'm just going to take some white, some just cheap craft paint, and do a very, very light brushing on top of these letters and see what it does. This is an acrylic, so if I don't like it, I can just wipe it off. I'm just going to use a very flat part of my brush. And hopefully I'll be able to see something green through it. And that's giving me the look I want. It's perfect. It doesn't have to be consistent because it's like a neon sign, so there's parts that are going to be brighter than the other areas. All right. So the letters are done. See if that shows up in camera. So I'll seal this again and let it dry for a while, and then I'll go in and I'll just hand paint the background in black. And then I'll hand paint I'm kind of doing things in reverse. Usually I would hand paint the frame. So I'm doing this sign in reverse, but it's looking good. So, and these green letters will pop out really well once I get the background painted black. So there's that. So we'll seal that, and then we'll hand paint the background. Okay, so here's the Oscorp sign done, or at least the letters. I went in and hand painted the black. I didn't record that because it took a little while. It took about 2 coats of paint to do it. Actually, see a little more. I probably should go touch up. But that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start hand painting these frames. And I'm going to do them, I'm not sure if I'll do them all the same. And I'm going to hand paint these little braces inside here too also, just so it breaks this up. And then when I get that done, then I can go in and do some shading and stuff, some airbrushing. So I think for these, I'm just going to do, I'm going to get steel and then mix a little black in there so I can get a dark color. Where is my steel? It's here. So I'm going to take this, my palette. Just want to expose it a little bit. And I'm actually going to just take some of this black I used on the sign. Let's see, where's my brush? Here it is. Take a little bit of this black right here, mix it with the steel. I want it a little darker. So I take these Vallejo metal colors, and I'll just mix other acrylics with them to get a color that I want. So again, I probably won't record this whole process because it's going to take a while. But it's just a matter of going in here just real carefully doing this. And also, like when I'm doing hand paint like this, I like to be able to get really close to my face and my stuff, so it's hard to do when I'm on camera. Yeah. So if you get your brush loaded up just right, pretty easy to kind of get right in the corner. The tricky part will be painting the back sides between all these pipes. But I did seal this, and what I'll do, the very last thing I'm going to do on this sign is I'm going to go in some gloss coat, and I'll just go over the top of the letters so they're shiny. Sorry all the background noise. Both my kids are listening to their teachers on homeschooling. Just go slow. My goal today is to get this tower done. And then, depending on what time of day that is, start masking off the red on Spider-Man. I do see a little couple very thin areas, some thin areas on the black. I gotta go back and do a little more on the background of the Oscorp sign. No big deal. I did 2 coats of black, but I use the craft paints, and they're pretty thin. So it's always at least 1 coat, or at least 2 coats. Sometimes 3. But they looked completely covered until I sealed it. So it's funny when you do this stuff because it looks really messy as you're going, but as you complete each step, it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. This looks better. So again, I'm not going to record this whole process because it's pretty self-explanatory. Just gotta be careful going around these little pipes and stuff. And then when I go with the airbrush and do some shading, they'll tie it all in together. But just like that. So I'm gonna go around and hand paint all these things, and then that's gonna probably take me a good couple hours, I would assume. Just so I can get between all the pipes and stuff. So when that's done, I will come back and we'll take a look at it. All right, moving along on this part. So I've done some assembly, and I've painted these guys and did some dry brushing on the grills stuff. So this has all been glued together because in order for Spider-Man to stay on there securely, this has to be glued together. So it's one area where this piece is kind of a little annoying because you can't use the original packaging to ship it back because, once these are glued, it doesn't fit back in the box. So I got some touch-ups here I'm seeing after assembling. Also, I assembled now because the way these slide together, you end up scratching some paint here and there. So I did that now so I can touch it up. And I've sealed this, and now I'm going to go in here with some pastels and kind of weather the top part a little bit. And go from there. But it's looking pretty good. I redid the light. It's over there drying. So hopefully that'll be okay now. So I'm going to take some of these. For this, I'm going to use some Graveyard Dirt. It's kind of a brown pastel. And I'm just going to get a crappy brush. And we're going to kind of come in here. Let's see if these stick. They should stick. So I'm going to go in with this first, I think. Since this is kind of a copperish color. I'm also going to get some of my, that's a good one, metal slag. Metal slag is a bit better option. It's a little darker, but it's still kind of got a brown tint to it. So I don't want these tubes to look brand new. I want to, they got some wear on them. Pastels are super messy. These get everywhere. And I just tend to use a lot of them. So, and, let's see. Actually, I own a crap load of pigments, but I really only use like 4 colors. I've got pigments in my stash that I've never even opened. They're sticking very good for some reason. They should. This is a flat surface. So we're gonna go between these colors and kind of draw these pipes up a little bit. And again, I'll just show you the initial little bit on here. So this takes a little while. I'm gonna do a little bit to the side here. Have this sign, and I just dab it on there and kind of get the look I want. My dog's gonna go crazy because my son's friends just showed up. All right, so I'm gonna do this for a little while until I get what I want, and I'll seal it. And here's gonna be hard because I gotta get a brush in there. And I'll come back and look at this, but this will take me a little while to kind of do this, but I think you get the idea. Just kind of go in here with the colors you want. And right now I'm just concentrating on the recesses. Using this metal slag, black smoke, and some Graveyard Dirt. The Graveyard Dirt shows up really good on the side of these signs. It's kind of a warmer tone. So once I kind of get this all weathered and sealed, this part should be done. What I don't want to do is get any pastels on the neon part of the sign. So I think on this side, I'm going to make this a little darker compared to the other one, just so I try to make it different by changing the color. But dry, it kind of looks the same as the other ones. I want it to be a different color. So I'm going to do it this way with some pastels. So this is kind of the technique. Just go in here. I'm actually get a nice big brush too, a flat brush here. So I'll blend them in a little bit. Kind of do a stippling effect to get them to stick better. The reason I'm doing this with the pastels rather than an airbrush because I can't get an airbrush and oops, I just dumped my pastels. I'm going to vacuum that up now. I'll just take it off the towel. That's going to be messy. I actually would like a shorter. Take the brush. I got one here. It's all right, so I'm going to do this and then we'll come back. All right, so the last few little steps on this piece is I was wondering if I should glue these together or not, and I decided that it's better for me to glue together and touch up any paint if needed be, because if I send this to my client and have him assemble it, it's kind of wonky. This little piece right here is really fragile. It's easy to break if you don't know how to put this together correctly, and I've done it several times. So you have to slide this piece in first, kind of hold it in place, then slide the rest in. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it together and just worry about packing it and sending it to him. And it doesn't need a lot of glue, just a little bit in each hole. And I'm going to take a Q-tip and kind of smear it around there. I don't want it to ooze out if I can avoid it. And again, this is really just to kind of tack this in place. It really doesn't need any glue. But again, I don't want to have to have my client deal with the possibility of scuffing paint and stuff. So it's just best if I do it here and then worry about packing it. So again, you got to take this little piece here. You have to slide it in, kind of hold it in place. And then this comes in at a very specific angle. And hopefully we don't scuff paint. But if we do, I can touch it up. And looks like it's in. I got a little glue on my finger here. Let's take it off. And there. So that's in. And it's not going to come out now. So that's permanent. So another thing about assembling this is you have to make sure that when you glue this piece on, this specific piece, that it's at the right spot. Because it can go on any direction, but it's got to go on so this part where Spider-Man mounts on is facing up. Otherwise, he'll fall over. So you want the Spider-Man's weight towards the top. So this piece is now, no, I got one more step. I'm going to do that real quick. And I'm going to brush a little gloss coat on top of these letters. I'm just going to use some acrylic varnish and a little brush. My brushes are dirty. This one. And I just need a little bit. And then when that's done, and I got the other part drying, I can see if I can take the tape off the letters. I'm just going to use this. Use a little lid here to put a few drops of this gloss varnish on. And a little brush. And I'm just going to paint the tops of these. So they got a little shine to them, not a lot. I don't know if you can see it in camera, but in person you'll be able to see it. Come on. I'm just hitting the tops. Just to get the illusion that it's glass. And it'll look different against all the flat and kind of semi-flat stuff that's going on here with the metallics. Come on, stop splitting. This looks pretty good. I like it. Now, I'm going to call this work in progress done. I'm going to see if I can take the tape off before I spray the light. Because I don't want to happen. Got something on there. What is that? Oh, I got a little touch up. I must have had some glue in my hand and my finger, and I touched the black paint. So I got to touch up there. I'll do that real quick too. I thought it was a gloss varnish, but it was a little bit of glue. That's what happens. You think when you're done with something, you touch it and then you screw it up. Then I'll just brush touch so you can see it's fogging over because the glue's drying. It's no big deal. All right. We'll just touch it up real quick. We'll let it dry and I'll brush on some flat varnish to blend it in. I still have some black paint here from when I did these earlier. Just gonna touch it up a little bit. Probably take 2 coats. Okie dokie. That looks pretty good. Once this dries, we'll touch it up with some all right. I got a little too much. I'll just touch it up when I do the flat. I got a little gloss on the black background there. I can see it. I'll just touch that with my brush touches there with the flat varnish. So I'll just touch that area, it'll blend in. All right, so that's looking good. Let's see, do I dare try to take the tape off of this thing? So here's the new light resprayed. I really don't want to leave this taped up too long because this paint is really fresh when I taped it off, but it's an acrylic. And I probably want to do a brush topper along the edge of this where it's been masked, which is no big deal. Let's see how it looks. If I take it up now, the sooner you can take tape off of an edge where the clear coat is, the less chance you have of it lifting up later. And I put it on fairly thick, so I want it to slick out pretty good. So this looks good. We'll call this work in progress done. It'll be a long one. Anytime I paint, they're really long. Oh, they're long anyway. My friend Mark was making fun of my 2-hour work in progress videos the other day. He makes fun of them all the time. It's like, who wants to sit there and watch you build an house for 2 hours? I'm like, there's 1 or 2 guys. Just taking this off, and it's looking pretty good. This clear coat is still very, very wet. It needs to sit overnight to really set up. All right, there it is. That looks good. Put that in. And I think the tower is pretty much done. I'll go through and look at. All right, so my card filled up, and my camera stopped recording. So I was saying, I was gonna go through and just look at any final touch-ups and stuff, but this looks like it's done to me. It looks really good. All that's left is letting that clear coat dry, and I think that's it. So this work in progress, I'm gonna call this work in progress done. It's gonna be a long one, as I was mentioning before, but it basically covers all of this and some of Spidey. Next one will be doing the red on Spider-Man, and basically finishing up Spider-Man himself. And then I'm going to also do some weathering on the base that came painted already, just to kind of match this a little bit. I don't want to cover up the graffiti that's on there. I want to just dirty it up a little bit so it kind of goes with this, but I think it looks really good. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.